Elle Russ is up next, and you're going to love this beautiful female powerhouse because Elle is bold, she's brilliant, and she tells it like it is. What I love most about her, besides her vibe and her wit and her confidence, is her story and her passion to help people find the missing pieces. She has dealt with a horrific case of hypothyroidism, which fueled massive emotional and binge eating, and a list of other things too, which we'll talk about. But after her relationships with her Western medicine doctors had failed her, she went all in a different direction, got to the root cause, changed her life, reclaimed her health, and kicked her eating patterns to the curb. You could basically say hypothyroidism messed with the wrong chick. Elle Russ is a best-selling author, TV film writer, seasoned life coach. She's the author of 2 books, Confident as Fuck and The Paleo Thyroid Solution. She's also the show host of 2 podcasts, The Primal Blueprint and the Kick-Ass Life podcast with Tara Garrison, who is also on the summit, who I love. She's been featured in Huffington Post, Success, Prevention, and a list of others. She's been interviewed on Tom Bilyeu's Health Theory, Lisa Bilyeu's Women of Impact, Bulletproof, and a list of others. I mean, need I say more? Elle, welcome to What We Crave.
Thank you so much. What a great introduction.
Thank you for being here. So Elle, let's do this. Let's start with the story. What the heck happened to you? Tell us all about it.
Aside from all of the stuff you mentioned that I do, I originally moved to Los Angeles many years ago because I am in the entertainment industry. I'm a TV film writer, but I'm also an actor. So I've been on TV and film. And so at the time, I was like 29, 30 years old. And now when we look at TV, we see a lot more normal body types represented. But especially back then, like 15 years ago, it was pretty clear to every actor that if you wanted to be a leading female role, then you better look like an athlete, right? You know, I mean, you better have the body of Jessica Biel or Halle Berry, and it was clear, I would intern in casting director offices and I would hear the casting director talk to an agent and say, you know what, she's great, but she's at an 8 and we need her at a 2. And these are the kind of conversations that happen all around you. Okay. So this was like, oh my God. Now, granted, it's way better now. Okay. It is really way better now. And I'm so happy to see that. I'm really happy to see just normal people with normal bodies and leading roles. But at the end of the day, I kind of was like, all right, I know what I have to do. And so the thing is that I thought I was doing it the healthy way. You know, I worked out every day. I ate in this kind of zone pattern or this philosophy of eat every 2-3 hours, keep your insulin, steady. There was no such thing as Atkins or Paleo Primal or any of this stuff back then. And there were no podcasts and there was no way for me to really internet search it. So I didn't have anything else but these paradigms. And so essentially I was overworking out. I was I was eating like a low carb, low fat diet, which is a just total mess. It will end up a total mess. And I had the body and people would compliment me. However, I was dying inside. Okay. I was such a food addict, man. I was beyond, I don't even know, the realms of food obsession all hit me. I felt like I had to exert extreme willpower. And so it would go from extreme willpower to like some binging. I would make deals with myself that were like, oh, if I drive around the parking lot of the grocery store and I find a spot, then I can get the donut. I mean, I was always making these deals with myself. And if anyone's listening and you know what it's like to be addicted to food, that's your mind frame. You eat something and you're trying to gauge what you're going to be getting away with 2-3 hours later, what you're going to eat later. Food is always on the mind. It didn't even matter how fit I was dying inside. And I was totally hypoglycemic. Like if I didn't have food after, 3-4 hours, I'd have a meltdown. I'd be driving back from Hollywood on my way to Malibu. Maybe it was like a 45-minute drive. And I would have to pull over at a grocery store because my brain was like empty and I was hangry and I was like shaky from the low blood sugar. And I would like have to go pull over to a grocery store and like get something to eat because I couldn't even make it the ride home. And I just thought, well, this is the way it is because this is the way everyone's telling me. Meanwhile, my God, in hindsight, boy, does that not make any sense ancestrally or at all with our DNA as humans. And what a suffering paradigm. What a suffering paradigm. Even Tara and I had talked about it like, oh, here's your 200 calories and 200 calories. Oh my gosh. Now, I eat a lot more food. I eat a lot more fat. I work out a lot less because I'm on a different paradigm. I am now a fat burner, not a sugar burner, which means that I am primarily fueled by fat that I put in my body or fat off of my body versus glucose that I'm intaking. And I'm no longer carbohydrate dependent. But at that time, I really thought I was cursed. I want to say this too, because I had friends around me that were fit and I was like, are they struggling like I am too? Because they don't seem to be. Or are they just lying too? And we're all struggling and every fit person is going through what I'm going through and no one's saying anything about it. For the longest time, I can't remember a time when I wasn't. Maybe like as a young child, I wasn't. But then when teenage years came about, ever since teenage years until when I finally got off the carbohydrate dependency train, that whole time, I had issues the whole time. I mean, I remember being like, life is not like, this is not worth it. Life's not worth living like this. My mind is I'm constantly thinking about food, and it wasn't pleasurable because I didn't feel like I could enjoy anything I ate because I was always worried about. So, I mean, it was a really horrible thing. And then that really led to an even worsening of that condition because I got hypothyroidism, which really just ignites food disorders because of what it does to your glucose, to your cortisol, to your energy levels, to your metabolism. And so, then it was even worse. The sugar addiction got even like worse at a time when I really didn't need it to be because I was gaining massive amounts of weights, as a lot of people with hypothyroidism do. So I've been through this years and years and years, over probably a couple of decades worth of being like a sugar addict, food addict, and it didn't matter what I looked like. And this is what I want to impart upon everybody. It doesn't matter if you're 500 pounds and obese or you are 115 and 17% body fat. Yes, it might feel or look a little better to yourself because you're wearing, you might feel more comfortable in your body. At the end of the day, though, it's the same hell. It is the same mental hell. I even thought about going to Overeaters Anonymous at one point. I mean, I didn't know what to do. And it really wasn't until I met Mark Sisson, who, wrote the Primal Blueprint and the Keto Reset Diet and started Primal Kitchen. And I started working for him 7 years ago. And I'm looking at him and his wife and I'm thinking, these guys are like 20 plus years older than me and they look way better than me. They're not working out all the time. They're not stressed about food. Maybe I should read his book. So actually I read his book, but I watched a 2-hour sort of lecture that Mark had given in Chicago many, many years ago. And it all hit home for me. And so I followed it and I did what he calls the 21-day body transformation. It takes about 21 days, a month to really convert from being a carbohydrate dependent sugar burner to being a fat fueled fat burner. And I went through a little bit of an adjustment there because your mind is being unaddicted to glucose as you're going through this sort of transition a little bit. But at the end of, really, it was almost like 21 days or 25 days. I had a moment where I actually hadn't eaten all day and it was 5:00 in the evening and I was actually ready to go to a Jimmy Kimmel live taping of his show. And I'm in Hollywood and I look at my watch and it was like 5 p.m. and I'm like, oh my God. And the thing is that I hadn't even thought about food the entire day. I didn't even remember. I couldn't. And that was a moment. I'm standing on the street in Hollywood going,
revelation.
This must be what all these people were talking about. Yeah. Oh my God. And then I had the other thought where I was like, well, should I eat? Because it's like 5:00. I haven't eaten all day. And then I was like, but I'm not hungry. So no. And I actually didn't eat until afterwards and it was kind of late that night. But that was my first moment of, oh my God, I didn't even think I had to go, but that was the thought is, oh my God, I didn't think about food today. What is going on? It was the best day of my life. And since then, I've never gone back. I've never gone back to the old paradigm and it's never gotten bad. And all of my food disorder, eating issues completely went away. And this is the number one success story that we get at marksdailyapple.com, where people every Friday give a success story. And, look, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I improved my cholesterol. My CAD screening is great. My coronary artery disease screening, or, oh, I cured a skin disease, or acne. There's lots of great success stories, but the thoroughfare of all of them is, and the best part about my story is that I no longer am obsessed with food. And what I think people don't understand is that me back then thinking something was inherently wrong with me. No, it was the paradigm that I was on, that I was doing this to myself unbeknownst to me. It's not you. You don't have a freaking problem. You ate in a way that you didn't know better, that gave you a problem that made you a food addict. If you change that, the food addictions go away. They completely go away. This is everybody I know, friends and family who've gone over to this. Now, I do know people who have gone to Weight Watchers and they've lost weight and things like that. I'm not backing Weight Watchers. If it works for you, that's great. I have a family member who lost 20 pounds on it. However, I see them still struggling. I see them still tempted. I see them still eating every like three. I mean, I still see this kind of attention to food in their life and their mind that I do not have. And I can tell you that that freedom is so great compared to, and then when I see it in someone else, I'm like, oh my God, I've been there and I know how it feels. If there's one thing in my life I'm grateful that I got over that I no longer have, it's that, because it's a living hell.